What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 3 tips for slot wide receivers to be successful with their route running. So we're going to be talking about how you guys can get open against man coverage, how you guys can beat a cover 2 zone coverage out of the slot, and then the off-man coverage that you guys are going to be seeing, especially from the slot wide receiver position. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it teaches you a few new things just about how slot receivers can be successful and how receivers can be successful in general. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you'd like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are traveling out to 3 more locations for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So next up, we're going to be coming out to Nashville, Tennessee. Then we're coming out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So like I said, it's a 2-day-long camp. 4 hours each day. So it's going to be a ton of knowledge, a ton of work for you guys. So if this is something that interests you, don't hesitate. Check out that very first link below. Let's get started with this video. So now, as a slot wide receiver, you're going to be seeing a ton of this coverage when you see man coverage. And that is going to be outside shade press coverage. So why would a DB ever go outside shade press? So there's 2 reasons. One, he's expecting an outside breaking route, right? So that from the slot wide receiver position, what do we like to run a lot of? We like to run a lot of corners, a lot of out routes, a lot of slot fades. And then, obviously we like to run drags, we like to run digs, but the other reason a DB would be outside shade is because he has safety help. So he's got help to the inside. He's totally fine with you just taking off and running a post because he probably has a safety right there. So usually that is the type of man coverage that we will see. So I'm going to play this full speed. So this is Cooper Kupp running a corner route. This is a textbook example of how you guys should be comfortable taking an inside release on outside breaking routes, especially from the slot. Nothing is worse than maybe a smaller wide receiver coming out of the slot who gets completely rerouted to the sideline. So common thing that a lot of wide receiver coaches who maybe don't necessarily know too much about what they're saying, know too much about routes and spacing of plays will say that, oh, you always want to take an outside release on an outside breaking route, no matter what. But if the DB is right in your way, you're going to be doing yourself no good taking an outside release because he's running a corner, right? Now, let me tell you something from a quarterback perspective. When you're running a corner route, and it is man coverage. A QB is taught to put air on the ball. He's not putting it on a line, right? He's taught to put air, let's drop it in. This DB will be trailing his back hip, and we break it off. So why would you take an outside release? Because if you take an outside release and you just cut the field space down in half pretty much, and you only have 5 to 7 yards to break off, that's an impossible throw for that QB. So we have to get comfortable taking an inside release, take what the DB gives me, so I have spacing for my QB. So what Cooper Kupp does, right, great example of here, is attacking the leverage of the DB. He's outside shade, so he's going to be throwing this kind of wide step release, head fake. Honestly, all we got to do is keep this DB honest. Let's keep him sitting to the outside so I could take this inside release. Now you might say, well, why do I even need to bother with this release? Because he's outside shade. Why not just take off and run and get up into the route? Because again, what does he have? He has safety help. So he could just get hands. If you take off and run, he could get hands on you, squeeze you to the inside of the field now where there's a safety there. So you have to give him something to stay honest, have to threaten him somewhat to the outside to hold him there. So now when I come off of that and I threaten him to the outside, I have one goal in mind. That is to restack. Now, if I can't restack, there's something I got to be comfortable doing, and that's what all slot wide receivers need to be comfortable doing, and that's a throw-by move. But after you take that release, my main goal should be to restack because now I have a ton of space to run and accelerate to this outside breaking route, even against outside shade press. All I got to do is take care of him and throw a fake at the top of the break. And you see what that does to this DB, throws him off balance a little bit, and we got space to run out of this route. Or he could have easily broken to the inside on that, and he didn't run himself right into a safety. It's a bigger window for that QB. So that is a textbook thing that slot wide receivers need to do against press coverage. You will see outside shade press. You just have to have a plan for it. Now you might ask me, what if I can't restack? Okay, DB's going to be playing you hip to hip. You could always take that left hand in this scenario, swap by on the hip, swap by on the shoulder, and just slip underneath him. So fellas, you got to have a plan. Be ready for outside shade press as a slot receiver. When you're at these camps, when you're doing one-on-ones, work out of the slot. Just make that DB play you outside shade. Trust me, that's going to help you in an actual game scenario. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job hitting that wide step release, working that restack. Now we're going to talk about some off-man coverage that you will see out of the slot, and then we're going to talk about how slots can beat cover 2. So now, this is like a receiver who's got his split cut down a little bit, I believe. So actually, you know what? He might be actually cut out a little bit wider, but this is still a scenario that slot wide receivers will see, right? So slot wide receivers, when you get off man coverage, that is usually like a safety walking down. So they call that like cover zero, for example, right? So like, let's say maybe you're lined up. I'll draw like a mock-up of a defense right here. So you got the outside receiver, the L, the R, the Z. I just do the L and the R because I know everybody has different letters in their offense. So they're pretty similar, but just not to confuse people, this is the slot on the left, this is the slot on the right. So what cover zero is like you'll maybe have two high safeties. It'll maybe look like it's like, they're going to be dropping into deep halves, whatever it is, and then they maybe start to creep down a little bit. They start to creep down. The linebackers start to creep in the box, so they come down to blitz, and they're going to be bringing that quarterback some pressure. So as a slot, you'll have a free safety lined up in front of you or a strong safety in like off-man coverage. So how do I attack that? So off man, what you will usually see, because there's not much safety help in cover zero, there is no safety help, you're going to see a lot of inside shade off man. You would want to treat it like you would on the outside, like you would from the slot, like anything when you see off-man coverage. But you will see inside leverage. So the common question is, how do I run an inside breaking route when he's 8 to 10 yards off in off-man coverage? How do I do that? He's inside leverage, and I have to run to the inside. What do I do? So this is a great example of that. So let's play this full speed. So if you guys are familiar with our page, I would talk, and what I would say on this clip is if you had to run a dig, you had to run a post, you would want to attack his outside shoulder. So this is a great example of this. I know this is not out of the slot, but this is a coverage you will see out of the slot. And he doesn't attack the leverage. He doesn't stem him to the inside. A lot of people, who hear, what we talk about, who hear other things from other receiver coaches, whatever, they assume that anytime I always want to attack a DB's leverage. Not necessarily the case. When you have a route to the leverage, so you have an inside route and he's inside leverage, you want to attack a shoulder. If he's outside leverage and you have an outside route, you would want to attack the inside shoulder. You have to pick a shoulder to attack. So in this case, because he's inside shade, if I were to just stem him inside here and attack his midline, step on his toes, as they say, he's going to keep his leverage. His sole responsibility is not give up anything to the inside. So we have to try to get his hips to flip to the fade because he is still in charge of the fade. It's man coverage. He does not want to get beat over the top. So that's what this wide receiver does. And slot wide receivers got to be comfortable with this. So he comes off the line, does a great job selling fade. That is the key on this. You have to make this DB thing vertical. So he comes off, he's running hard, he's in full stride, his pad level's in a good spot. Everything about this looks like he's just going to try to run right by him. And maybe you've done this a few times in the game. Maybe you've ran a seam out of the slot and that safety's felt your speed before. But when we attack this outside shoulder and I start to get him to open up his hips, bam, I could put the brakes on, I could slip back underneath, and now I have some space to run this post and some space to accelerate. Because again, spacing of the play still matters. I can't just run to the inside of the field and just take off in front of him because then that will screw up the spacing and that will screw up the timing of the route. If that DB's sitting right at that break point, inside leverage, you got to attack that outside shoulder. Force the hip flip, make him think fade, make him think an outside breaking route, and then slip back underneath him to win on this play. That's a great job by this wide receiver attacking that inside shade off man. So again, this is like when you have maybe a safety and it looks like it's zone coverage. You have a linebacker inside shade. Linebacker starts to walk into blitz. Safety starts to walk down, and his eyes are on you. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about cover two. I'm going to play this thing full speed, and then we'll talk about how a slot can beat a cover two look when they are also running a corner. So one of the common coverages or common route combos, I should say, that you see is that you'll see this outside wide receiver doing something like a hitch route, doing like a whip route, and the slot doing a corner. So that's called a smash concept. So essentially what the quarterback is trying to read is he's trying to read this DB. If he sits on the whip, then you're going to look to the corner route. But we know against cover two, what is this corner responsible for? The flats. So he's probably going to sit in the flats. Quarterback is still going to read him just to make sure he doesn't show like it's cover two, then backpedal and pick off the corner. And he's probably still going to look at it just to keep him honest. But as a slot, you would have a safety right over the top of you. And if you're running this corner, a rocker step is a great move that slot wide receivers need to have in their arsenal to beat cover two. So let's play this thing full speed. So he's running at him here. 1-2. Gives that crossover move, and you see that quarterback's putting it on a line to keep him away from the safety who's playing over the top, and he's able to come back and make this play. You want to treat cover two just like off man. You want to close the space. You want to threaten his leverage to the inside because, again, he's in cover two. His responsibility is literally where you are running. Where he doesn't have help is the inside, because it's cover two. Usually the middle of the field is open. So if you can threaten him there, you could step outside the frame. You could use that rocker step. That can get that DB to bite and create a lot of separation for us. So this wide receiver does exactly that. He addresses him. He throws that head fake to the inside, hips and shoulders. Everything about this right here looks like a post, and that's what can get that DB to hesitate. Just know as a slot, fellas, when you're against cover two, expect the ball to be on a line. Because when that quarterback puts it with air and you got a safety over the top, he's got a chance. But when he puts it on a line, he can bring you back away from this safety. Sometimes this safety will be a little bit deeper too. And if he puts it with air, that's an easy play for him. So fellas, just make sure we have that rocker step in my tool belt as a slot wide receiver when I'm going against that cover two guy. And again, you could use it the opposite way, because I know a lot of offenses will like to run, like they'll do smash, then they'll give this guy a post option. He could just run a post. So you could do a rocker step the opposite way. Instead of me running this way, I could just put this foot in the ground and plant, get that DB to jump, and then I run the post. So the rocker step as a slot wide receiver has got to be one of your best tools that you have in your tool belt at that top of the route. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver pushing up, attacking that cover two safety, giving him that 1-2, and then finishing this catch, getting his head around. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always good to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to train with us, we're coming out to 3 more states this offseason. We're coming out to Nashville next, then Salt Lake City, Utah, and then Los Angeles, California. So check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.